Good afternoon on what is a bright, warm, if slightly breezy day. It is Thursday, August 26th. I am back in the Read Nook with some parcels and, of course, a nice hot cup of tea. And so managed to open two parcels already today. So I'm going to do one more, which is this, which has come from Lightning Source. So let's see what this is. And this is what I hoped it would be, and it is the Company of the Dragon by Andrew Logan Montgomery, and it is the latest physical release from the Jonstown Compendium, which is the community content program for Glorantha, basically for RuneQuest role-playing in Glorantha, 13th Age Glorantha, and Quest Worlds, which was HeroQuest. This is the Company of the Dragon, the sequel to, or the second part of 6 seasons in Sartar. It's a campaign sourcebook for use with RuneQuest role-playing Glorantha and other Gloranthan campaigns. Okay, so Sartar 1620 ST. As the Lunar Empire tightened its grip on Dragon Pass, raising the Temple of the Moon victorious in triumph, bands of rebel loyal to Kalia of Keldon continued to wage a guerrilla war. One of them was the Company of the Dragon. Hunted by their own prince and his tribal kings, bound together by common purpose and the mysterious shard of a true dragon's soul, throughout the Great Winter they harried the Empire and its allies, struggling to win and keep the support of the people. In the end, they would help bring the Empire to its knees. The sequel to the gold bestseller 6 Seasons in Sartar. Within you will find Sartar Before the Dragon Rise, a land culturally and politically divided under foreign dominion. The Company of Dragon, a description of the company, catalyst warbands and a new system of model large communities, keep them healthy and strong and lead them into large-scale battles. Draconic Consciousness, the teachings of the Dragon Way, a draconic perspective on the hero wars. Characters, rules for creating new protagonists, creating and narrating character arcs, and a shorthand system for antagonists and NPCs, with over 30 templates for quick NPC designs. Initiations, a discussion of this important aspect of Glorantha religion, with example initiations for the cults of All-Lantha Adventurous, Humact, Vinga, Babista Gore, Stormball, and the Company of the Dragon. Running the game, an extensive chapter on building campaigns, with expanded battle and community management rules, new options, and a discussion of Glorantha gaming. Episodes, more than 160 pages of adventures and adventure seeds that allow you to assemble your own 5-year, 27-season saga, with historical events like the Battle of Auric Hills and the Dragon Rise, as well as new and unique tales like the Dark Lord's Daughter and the Changeling. So there's an incredible amount of content in here, just from that list. And the thing is, okay, so 6 Seasons of Sartar, the first part of this, I've already done an unboxing, is one of the best books on the Jonstown Compendium. The other one you should check out is Value of Plenty, because it takes the characters from the point where they are young, pre-adult, and then they go through their initiation, and they have adventures over the course of a single season, back during the occupation by the Lunar Empire of Sartar, but they're members of an isolated clan who have avoided entanglements with the Imperials to date. But unfortunately the Imperials come to them ultimately. So it's a very focused, quite a narrow campaign, both in terms of storytelling and its geographical setting, actually, that really does a very good job of introducing the characters to Glorantha and pulling them into the setting and exploring further. So at the end of it, and essentially it's the thing is, until such times as the starter set arrives, which hopefully will be soon, even may have happened by the time you see this video, then to be honest, in my opinion at least, 6 Seasons of Sartar and also Value of Plenty are probably the best introductions to playing RuneQuest role-playing in Glorantha and getting a start with a campaign from first principles that you are going to that's available. But the Company of the Dragon is a sequel to Six Seasons of Sartar, and it will explore the fate of the characters who survived the events of the 6 seasons in Sartar. So we open it up, and this is. Let's have a look. So we basically a nice piece of artwork for the introduction. We get started, and the interesting thing is that another interesting thing is that both 6 Seasons of Sartar and the Company of Dragon, we presume, basically are treated as myths, almost as if in 1,000 years, 2,000 years, there are academics discussing the myths surrounding what happened. So essentially, this is what you have here in these box text. You have opinions from different academics, and it's an interesting approach to take. And then we get into essentially setup chapter by chapter, explanation of what the campaign is about, and how the text is laid out, and then essentially an explanation of Sartar before the Dragon Rise. Now that's important because both Six Seasons in Sartar and Company of Dragon take place before the current starting point for the timeline of RuneQuest role-playing Glorantha. That's 1625, and that's leading in, starts with the Dragon Rise and really pushes forward into the Hero Wars. This is set during the events leading up to the Dragon Rise, and essentially the events of 1619, 1620, not 20, 21, 22, essentially during the Great Winter, which are also explored by the Coming Storm campaign as well, which was available for Hero Quest, and then obviously will be hopefully available for Quest Sports. That's also worth checking out. I've done a video on that as well. So here's the background of information for the referee who maybe is come to RuneQuest anew and is wants his background for the setting prior to that in a bit more detail. And when we have essentially the various phases of the campaign leading up to the Dragon Rise. And then we get into the Company of Dragon. Essentially, these are the most famous, infamous warband in Starbase Resistance, and essentially the player characters take roles of members of the warband and take it into war. And again, this means essentially, basically, in terms of storytelling, that the characters really can take part in major events throughout this period. Now, some of those do come up during character generation. So one way which you could use this, I suppose, is you could actually play 6 Seasons Sartar, okay, 1619, then 1620, lead through this and run a campaign that leads right up to the Dragon Rise and beyond, and then start getting involved in the official timeline. So there's a lot of information, a lot of text in here, a lot to go through. And essentially it's got notes here as a 6 Seasons in Sartar sequel. So there is no, I mean, you don't have to play it like that. You know, the characters do not have to play through 6 Seasons in Sartar, but there's the notes that if you do. And then we get into essentially it's dealing with the community, and essentially not just the community as a character, essentially almost like a player character with its own runes, and it's got its own community statistics, and it's one in which you are initiated into, and essentially it's almost like a cult, as it were. So here we have the Company of the Dragon as basically as a community, and it's fairly low level when it starts, but obviously, like a character, it can be developed. And the interesting thing is that over on the other side we have 13th G and Quest World support, so 13th Age Glorantha, and basically essentially there's the guide there for that as well. So it's fairly all-encompassing. It's specifically written for one group, one set of mechanics, but it's easy enough to adapt to the others with a bit of effort upon the part of the game master. And then we go into Draconic Consciousness. Now this comes out of the events that took place at the end of the 6 seasons of Sartar. And then we have essentially discussion of characters and so on. So essentially rules there for creating your own characters that lead into that can be used in the campaign, and you can use that. That's there for if you want to use it without having done 6 seasons in Sartar. So complete backgrounds, and tying it into essentially RuneQuest and events and so on. And essentially the idea is that you have you basically family history, and a lot of these are outcasts. So your clan was from the Mamboda tribe, which was slaughtered by the Talmori werewolves in 1606, or you're from the Fireball clan of the Simbari tribe, your clan rose up and was crushed by the Lunars. Or you're from the Dundalios tribe, and again for reasons which are made clear here, you rise up against the Lunars and were crushed, or indeed you have the honour, the supreme honour of being a duck. Plenty of background and stuff in it, essentially, that you can create your character and information. And we have we have more information on basically on the Glorantha clan folk. So for example, whether that is Chieftain's Thane, Storm Voice, Windlord, it's all there. Young Vingan, basic NPCs and background and so on that you can use, and then with the Lightbringers as well. So Charlar Roy Healer, Amali Clown, nice bit of illustration there. Lancor My Sage. Again, nice appropriate use of artwork. Yep. So plenty of background information again that you can bring into your game. Then we have initiations, and one of the great scenes in 6 Seasons in Sartar is that characters get to go through their initiation, and that happens. And essentially, so you actually get to play out a character going from manhood, from childhood to adulthood, through the different cults. Primarily, the ones presented in there are for basically are obviously male and female, all length, and his brothers, and then and then Enelda and her sisters, and the idea there is that depending upon how the characters react or events play out, then they make their choice of cults. And we've got sample initiations. So Orlanth Adventurous, Vinga, Humat, Babist of Gore, and these great. What I love about these is that, I mean, this is Andrew Logan Montgomery's take upon them. This is not official, but that doesn't mean that you can't use them in your game or use them as your inspiration for your game, and use them as basically add colour or to your player characters. Use them as flashbacks, that sort of thing. I mean, I'm currently running a campaign based around Apple Lane, and they've got to the point where they have just played through the events of the Broken Tower, got them to Apple Lane, and somebody asked them whether they visited Apple Lane before, and I'm doing a flashback to Gringle's Pawn Shop. Now, that takes place just after, basically, it's described in the classic module Apple Lane, and so they're going to retell how they defended Gringle's Pawn Shop. But that happens just after their initiation, and if I had time, if I was doing a proper campaign face-to-face, then I would use these initiations if I could. I've used them, some of them before. I used the ones in Six Seasons and Sartar sort of as a flashback when I was down on players, but it all worked fine. And then we get into we've got running the campaign. This is all preparation and background so far. And then we've got the different descriptions, essentially the different phases of the period going through. I said, such a wealth of background. I mean, it's the great thing about the Jonstown Compendium is that we are being spoilt for background and detail. The authors are being inspired to write campaign material. And this also interesting thing is that this, I've just flipped through, is that is that this uses plot points. So it says many game systems go all the way back to Victory Games' James Bond 007. Use the concept of hero or luck points to allow players to reroll a failure, erase a wound, escape untimely death. It says the mechanic, however, is not a RuneQuest. It's always been very gritty, realistic, let the chips or the dice fall where they may sort of game. We like it that way. So Office instead, essentially, it adds plot points. Each player character has a single plot point to spend. They cannot use to change dice rolls, nor they can erase events. They can add new events that address the outcome of the first. So, for example, if the character loses his limb, as there are no Earth Priestess on hand, the spending a plot point ensures that the character will conveniently come across one or survive long enough to get back to one. And so on. Oh, that's a nice touch. It means that the character is always involved in the campaign from beginning to end. Even if they die, if they die, there's a chance of them coming back. And then we get into the actual episodes, you can see with a book this length why it's taken the author so long to bring this to print, because it's such a big book. It's been out for PDF in a while, but it's fantastic to actually have out in print, so that if you wanted to, you could start playing a grand campaign arc, which would begin with Six Seasons and Sartar, lead into this, and then into the Dragon Rise, the content which is already available for RuneQuest RolePlaying Glorantha. Even do the starter set if you wanted to, and then go on to essentially the campaign that Chaosium has promised us. So lots of different background and scenarios in here. Blood and Wood, another episode there. I'm not even going to look at these in any detail because don't want to spoil it for me. I will review this in due course, and I'm dying to dig into it and read it. But that will take time because I'm fairly busy with the other reviews I have to hand. Yeah, lots of episodes and encounters and issues going on, and I like the fact that each one of them is accompanied by a map, but basically showing the progress through the campaign and through Sartar, so that the player characters are obviously travelling and avoiding danger and coming to deal with it when they can, striking at the dread Lunar Empire, hoping to drive them out. So yeah, there is a lot of information. Finally, you come to the Dragon Rise itself at the end. There we go. We've got a map of the Temple of the Moon Victorious, and basically that's the pivotal event. The Dragon Rise it's a pivotal event. I've had a bit of experience with it in playing a HeroQuest involved in its destruction, and turning it. Basically, you've just got a fantastic piece of artwork. That's really great. I love that. You know, that just there's a utter sense of terror to that as you're staring up at this this dragon as it bears down on the temple. That's really captures the sort of like the scene. You do not want to see that, and just the sense of scale from that. You know, imparts the idea that essentially a lot of characters start to play the game with a fear of dragons. So yes, and this ultimately takes you to the essentially one of the battles that between Kalia and the Lunar Empire, Kalia Starbrow, which takes place at Dangerfield, and that's quite a key component. And what's interesting there is that location has been visited several times by titles on the Jonstown Compendium. So it's entirely possible, you know, that what you could do if you were running a campaign in and around Apple Lane is that you could actually run those as events leading up to the battle between Kalia Starbrow, Battle of the 11 Lights, basically, which takes place after the Dragon Rise and stops another invasion by the Lunar Empire. So essentially, you could go up there. You might be called up to muster, but that never comes to pass, or something like that. Then you might actually go, okay. You know, the Lunars are making another sort of like sortie, and you might go and play something like Duel at Dangerford, and then finally you would actually ultimately get to the point where you are engaged in that battle. And this is not the first treatment I've seen of it. It's also in the start of the starter set for RuneQuest Role-Playing in Glorantha as a solo scenario, which you can adapt to player involved, which is basically a group play as well. So yeah, this takes a campaign. That's probably signalling that I should end this because it's quite a lengthy unboxing. I mean, not surprising because there's quite a lot in here. So I apologise about the noise, but there's nothing I can do about that. So yeah, normally my videos don't run this long, but there's a lot of information in here, a lot to look at, and I am jealous that basically jealous of the fact that I don't have time to look at it in further detail yet, but I will. I promise that I will, because I've been waiting to get hold of this for a while. So, in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, please do click the like button down below. And if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those, and I do read them and I respond as I can. Lastly, of course, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, you know, basically when you'll see me here with some parcels and a book that I can talk about knowledgeably as best I can for 10 or so minutes, or in this case 25 minutes, then please do hit that subscribe button, and of course join me for another for a nice hot cup of tea. So yeah, so in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed this extra long unboxing in the Nook, and I will be back again with another unboxing in the near future. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.